hour, the chief executive of Hong Kong has said that government officials are ready to meet with pro-democracy protesters who are continuing to demonstrate around Hong Kong. But CY Leung has refused to resign. That was the demand. Student leaders had threatened to occupy government buildings. If he didn't step down, the deadline was 5 o'clock London time. Police are saying that they will not tolerate any illegal action there, and China's state media has again condemned the demonstrations as chaotic. So that statement from the chief executive came in the past few minutes, so let's listen to it.
The Hong Kong Federation students issued an open letter asking for a meeting with the Chief Secretary representing the Hong Kong government to discuss one item, and this is the constitutional development of Hong Kong. We have studied the letter in detail, and I'm now appointing the Chief Secretary to represent Hong Kong government to meet with the representatives of the Hong Kong Federation students to discuss constitutional development matters.
Well, that was the Chief Executive's statement just a short while ago. Lord Patten is joining us, the last British Governor of Hong Kong, who handed over in that memorable ceremony in 1997. Lord Patten, thank you so much for your time. Just starting then with the Chief Executive's statement there, we note, if we're listening carefully to that, he's not even offering to meet these students himself. He's proposing that some of his representatives meet them on his behalf. What do you think of that approach?
Well, I suspect that the students would probably prefer to meet his number two and some of his number two's colleagues rather than the chief executive, because I'm afraid the argument has become rather personalised. I think that for these hundreds of thousands of demonstrators and for the majority of people in Hong Kong, the big issue is whether or not they can secure the sort of free elections, fair elections that they were promised and have been promised for years. And I think that they might think that the future of the chief executive is tied up in the outcome. But the big thing for them is the question of elections. And I've always thought that the best way of getting back to stability and prosperity and the defence of Hong Kong's freedoms was to start a dialogue and to make the next stage of discussions on the constitutional development of Hong Kong a genuine one rather than a counterfeit one. So I welcome what's happened.
The Chinese response, as you know, has been very robust, and it says that there is a confused and lopsided understanding of what was agreed 17 years ago on this one country, two systems model. Do you think there's confusion around that, and that, you know, given the state of affairs that you left and that you transferred, are we in a position where China's right to say that people are now confused?
No, they're only confused if they take seriously Chinese propaganda. Look, underlying the discussions about the Hong Kong Constitution, the Basic Law, the joint declaration between Britain and China, there was an understanding that Hong Kong was to be placed on a flight path to proper democracy. And Chinese officials, on a number of occasions before 1997, made it absolutely plain that the scale and extent and precise arrangements for democracy in Hong Kong should be entirely within the sphere of autonomy of the Hong Kong government. They said they'd need to be reported for the record to Beijing, but the actual details were for the people in Hong Kong and for the people who were running Hong Kong. And it's the fact that China seems to have rowed back from that, which is, I think, one of the things which has caused so much difficulty and which has led to these demonstrations. I have to say that I think the demonstrators themselves have behaved extraordinarily peacefully and have had the moral high ground, and I hope that they will accept the offer of talks, and that those talks will be held in a spirit on the government side which underlines that they're real and that they're trying to reach a sensible solution rather than just getting the students off the streets.
As you say, it's been notably peaceful, and the conduct is something that lots of people have remarked upon. However, we've had a hardening of the warnings from China about the persistence of the demonstrators. Does that hardening bother you, and what could it lead to?
It does bother me, because it's a sort of Chinese communist reflex action. But I've never myself believed, though I have my fingers crossed when I say this, that we were likely to see things degenerating into a Tiananmen Square. China has so much at stake, not just in the well-being of Hong Kong, China's richest city, but also in trying to establish the sort of standing in the world which should be part of its economic and political ascent. I think it would be appalling for China in the 21st century if it was to behave badly in Hong Kong, or if it was to behave in a way which is dishonourable. And nobody should want to back China into a corner, but I just hope that China will be sensible and get out of the corner it's in itself and let these discussions move forward properly. One of the problems always in Hong Kong is that some of those who affect to represent Hong Kong go up to Beijing and tell the emperor what they think the emperor wants to hear, rather than what the situation is really like back in their city. And I think that's happened a bit in this case. But I do hope that we can now see a de-escalation of the tensions and a genuine dialogue leading to the sort of outcome which the demonstrators would like to see.
Just a final point, Lord Patten, if I may, just to give you as a sense again of your thinking, maybe back in '97 when you presided over that transfer, did you think that within 20 years there would be pretty much free and fair elections in Hong Kong? Was that the kind of timescale you had in mind?
Yeah, I hoped they would come rather sooner. I have to say that overall the Chinese authorities have behaved pretty well in keeping to their side of the bargain on the joint declaration. Not perfectly, but Hong Kong still has a rule of law and still has the freedoms that you'd associate with a plural society. But on the democratic front, that hasn't happened. And I think it betrays a rather foolish sense on the side of Beijing that they can't trust the people of Hong Kong to behave responsibly and sensibly. They can, and I'm sure that sooner or later they will, and they'll be, I hope, not surprised at the outcome, because it'll show Hong Kongers, Hong Kong citizens, behaving exactly as many of us have always thought they would behave.
Lord Patten, good to have you with us. Thank you very much for your time.